It is crunch time in the Scottish Championship. With just 4 games to go, nothing is yet set in stone, and while Falkirk look like heavy favourites to lift the title, it's all still to play for below them. And at Starks Park on Saturday, it is a matchup that looked all but guaranteed to be a dead rubber for large parts of this season. With the Rovers' playoff hopes having lain in tatters more than once, and Airdrie being all but relegated since September, it is testament to the work of both sides that they go into this one with optimism about what's to come. A draw suits neither side, and a loss would be a crushing blow, but with huge potential rewards for a win, it is set to be a gripping afternoon at Starks Park. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and with me tonight to preview Airdrie's visit, I am delighted to have Allan Douglas Munn. First of all, how are you, Allan?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. Hopefully, if we spend all of tonight talking about how there's nothing to play for on Saturday, we'll get the same result and win 1-0. 1-0 home win's been quite popular with Rovers Airdrie games, to be honest. So.
Yeah, we've made a bit of a habit of that this season, doing podcasts that are immediately then redundant. Like that whole one we did, 18 minutes before Neil Collins left? That was good.
In fairness, until Dylan Easton stepped up last week, until that point we were not really wrong about it.
Aye, yeah, true. We've got Blair Hopcroft as well. How are you, Blair?
Very well, mate. Very well. Looking forward to, discussing a 1-0 victory, hopefully.
Yeah, but who for? It's a big question. We've also got Scott Fleming as well. How are you, Scott?
Aye, not too bad, mate. Just looking forward to hopefully seeing Aki's winning 1-0 again and us winning 1-0, because that would really put the... I don't know, I just think Partick are... If they drop points against Hamilton, they are really going to start shitting themselves that they could lose this. And it would be hilarious if they managed to... I mean, I'd need to go back and check, but I don't know at what point how far in front they were of us, but also just the whole league. That sort of gap to 5th. But it feels like they've been 4th literally since day one of the season.
I did start looking to see what the biggest gap had been and just gave up. I couldn't find that an easy enough way to do it. I'm not that interested in this, but you're right. It's felt like it must have been, they had that terrible run before Doolan left. Before that terrible run, they looked like it was all sewn up, even with loads of football to go. We do have one more tonight. We've also, for the first time in a while, we've got Graeme Meldrum as well. How are you, Graeme?
I'm good. I've taken the week off work, and it's good to be on here because nobody down here wants to talk to me about football for some strange reason. No idea what it is.
Yeah, people just crossing the road on Ayr High Street not to speak to you.
Yep.
I was probably say it's probably the head to toe Rovers kit that you've had on all week.
Maybe
It's probably got something to do with it.
With a Dylan Easton mask on.
Yes, against sort of all expectations. Certainly earlier parts of this season, this is a bit of a clash of two form teams. So again, with the kind of caveat that Falkirk are kind of flying, I think it's us and Airdrie are next up over the last 5 or 6 games. Allan, how surprised are you by Rhys McCabe and Airdrie's Lazarus impression?
From the lowest point, I would say very. I mean, I don't think anyone ever really thought they were as bad as they were for that first half of the season. You know, it was always fairly obvious they were really unlucky with injuries, and you know they actually started the season really well. You know, they did well in the League Cup group stages. They started the league well, beating us, and then didn't win again for about another 3 months or something like that, and got some right spankings in there as well. But I never really thought they were as bad as they looked. You know, yes, they lost a few players in the summer, but they still had some very good players in that team, most of whom were injured. In terms of, but to come back to where they were, I don't think anyone thought they could get, talking about them in, say, October, November, December, everyone's like, well, they're doomed now. Even if they do turn it around, it's just they've got far too much to do. But I don't think anyone really expected some of the other teams to be quite as pish as they've been since then as well. And based on current form, I don't think anyone was. Apologies for that. I don't think anyone was too surprised about them picking up the win last week, for example. Albeit Thistle have been on decent form as well. Airdrie, as we saw a few weeks ago, and some of the guys on here were ridiculed for saying it at the time, Airdrie are not the 10th best team in this league by any stretch of the imagination. So, they're had they had all their players available, they'd probably be up closer to where we are, challenging for playoffs. So I think, I don't think it's too much of a surprise really in the last few weeks.
Yeah, the dogs bark and the caravan rolls on. For
I'll put myself on mute until I need to speak again, just in case.
Blair, in terms of Airdrie, obviously the point Allan makes is a good one about the injuries that they had, but I think for me the most remarkable thing about Airdrie is that they don't really have any kind of star players at all.
I was going to say good players, but yeah.
Stop short of saying that. But that's kind of what I mean. But I don't mean that as a dig. I'm not trying to, wind anybody up or anything. But they don't have any. It's not like we've had injuries this season where it's like Jack Hamilton and Lewis Vaughan. You're like, well, that's all your goals gone. It's not really been like that with Airdrie. Does that speak to kind of Rhys McCabe's management style? I know you've been quite a fan of his at various points.
Yeah, I really like him. I actually don't. I can't stand him, but I like him as a manager. I think he does a really good job because I think he plays the team that's in front of him. So I think you're absolutely right. Is the first thing. They don't have a star in that team. There's no one really that stands out as being a key man. They've got some decent players. I mean, I've said a few times I'm a big fan of Hancock. The left back that they've got is really good, but they don't really have a. I don't think they have a set kind of style as such. They still want to pass the ball and stuff, which is to McCabe's downfall for a while. To be fair, I think he tried to play through the injuries in a kind of really stubborn way and refused to kind of change things dramatically, whether he just couldn't or whether he wouldn't. But they do seem to kind of play against the team that they're up against, so they change their style up a little bit, depending on who they're facing. I was quite impressed when they played us. That it was a pretty rubbish game, to be fair, but they kind of called our bluff. They just sat and waited, do you know what I mean? And it was that kind of, they never came out at us. And because they never came out at us, the high press that we were doing just didn't really work because it wasn't high enough for all intents and purposes. They've had a really strange season, to be fair. I'm not really sure if injuries are the only thing that they would point it to. I imagine it'll play a big part in it. But like you say, there's no it's a perfect thing. They've no lost a 20-goal a season striker at the beginning of the season. I mean, Ayr could look at losing Dowds, and we could look at losing Vaughan, and these injuries are to really key players, and you go, actually, that really changes the makeup of your side. I'm not really sure whether just being better than the sum of their parts is probably their biggest strength, and so they didn't feel the blow quite so much. I think the biggest issue they've had this season has been the sheer number of injuries. They've had huge numbers of injuries at times. So, I mean, credit to them for keeping going. I think we all thought they were dead and buried at one point. But I think we also knew that they were never quite as bad as they appeared to be. But again, that said, the game they beat us 1-0, they were pretty shit. We were just a bit shitter. It wasn't like they played us off the park or anything, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for the first hour in that game, there was nothing in it.
Nah.
Quite literally, nothing happened.
Nothing. It was awful.
Then it was really, I think, when they made a couple of subs around about the hour mark that the game started to turn a little bit. And I think it was Ian Latto who summed it up best. He said, on the night while the game was still going, up until the hour, it was first goal wins this. And then after the hour, it was if Airdrie score, they will win this.
Yeah, totally.
Or it would have finished nothing each. We just dropped away from it. But very similar to the first game. Like the very first game of the season was like that. Like there was nothing in it apart from the fact that they did enough to score one goal, and that was going to be enough.
Yeah.
Graeme, with that in mind, given how we've got on against Airdrie this season, what do you think? What's going to be key if the Rovers are going to win this on Saturday? What do they need to do right, and what do they need to stop Airdrie doing potentially?
Well, I think Blair said there wasn't any standout players with Airdrie. I'd disagree a wee bit. I thought the guy up front was really good. I thought the guy Wilson. I thought he gave her back the torrid time. He held the ball up really well. And I've not learned my lesson for the 90s because it's a thing I do with my son is who would you sign from the other teams in the league, right? And in the 90s, we seem to have a right thing for signing players for Airdrie for lots of money and then either not using them or them being shit. But I would certainly look for I think Wilson's a good player. I think the right fullback that's come Fiscal Bride as well is a good player. I think he's a cracking wee player, McDonald. So regarding what we'd do, I don't know what we'd do. I think the game that Blair's talking about, we tried to play it with Pollock up front and the ball's in behind it. It didn't work. Now Pollock's not here, so that's obviously not an option. So maybe actually playing football might actually be a better option this time. Because you could see it when they had goal kicks. We were sitting with the three on the edge of the box, trying to press them, and then it was almost man for man. And they were able to play out from that. And we didn't seem to have much of an answer. So I think with Louis Vaughan, I think there'll be, if Robson does pick Louis Vaughan, there's more likely to be football played, I think, this time. And I think that's probably where you'll get Airdrie, is if you actually play football against them, rather than this. It was a bit like cat and mouse. Was that a Tuesday night? It's a bit like cat and mouse. Both were kind of playing the same systems. And I get what Blair's saying, that Rhys McCabe will set up for what's in front of him. But there is that dilemma of do we play Vaughan and we play the ball into feet, or do you play Marsh and you set him off like a hare as well? So, as I say, I think if we play nice, tidy football, I think we'll get around them and we'll get something out of the game.
Yeah, I think the blueprint for that, attacking wise, would be the last time that we were at Capello.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is making sure that the defensive side doesn't kind of go the same way.
Yep.
Now that was only one game. I don't think you could draw a direct kind of line between the two, but I think the way that Vaughan was playing in that game and the hold-up play with Gullen was very, very good. And it's something that obviously we've not seen a lot of because that's not the way that we've been playing. Scott, I tell you what, let's stick to that that point, because it's really, as I think we all knew and expected, Finlay Pollock's been confirmed that his loan is finished, his season is finished. So you've really got a straight shot, I think, between two, really. Lewis Vaughan or Aidan Marsh coming in. I suppose you could make a case for Aidan Connolly in the his Allan Russell inspired striking role as well. I suppose it's a kind of two-pronged question. Who are you hoping to see, and who do you think Barry Robson will choose from the start on Saturday?
I would probably lean towards I expect him to play Vaughan purely down to the fact of what he did at Capello and when Pollock wasn't available. I think that's the way he'll go with it. I think Vaughan's now had enough time to kind of get back into regular training again, get some minutes into his legs. He's had that start at Capello as well, so I think in terms of that side of things, I would say that Vaughan's pretty close to being back to being ready to be starting games again. I feel a wee bit sorry for Aidan Marsh because when we seen him for the first time, he'd only trained with the team for a day, and we seen him in that game at Falkirk in the Scottish Cup. Now, I know it's a cup game and anything happens in cup games and stuff like that, but I was really impressed with what we saw that day, considering it was a guy that never probably knew half the guys' names, for a starter, and he was just getting wired in, stuck in, and for a guy that's like probably, 5'8", something like that, he was no feared at anybody, even if they were 6'2", 6'3", just getting wired in, as I say. And he created a couple of chances and got unlucky not to score as well. But for some reason, Robson obviously sees him every week in training, just doesn't seem to be playing him. And if it's anything, he's getting like 5 minutes off the bench here and there. But I would be happy to see either Vaughan or Marsh, to be honest. I like both of them, and obviously Vaughan, we know that Vaughan's more of a clinical finisher, and to be fair, we're talking about 1-0 games. Maybe that's why you go with Vaughan, is the fact that if he gets that one chance, he's probably going to take it, or at least get more chances maybe than Marsh will. And I think it's going to be a case of who scores first. I think that's going to be key in this game, as it has been basically since they've came back into the Championship. That's how it's been. It's literally been 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 constantly. I think the only one that kind of wasn't like that was the Challenge Cup game. They beat us in the semi-final at Starks. That was the only game that kind of disrupted that sort of 1-0 run. But
no, that was 1-0 as well. It was a league game. It was a league game. We got beat 3-1 in the league game towards the end of last season.
All right, I had it in my head we lost that game 2-1, but
that big Galut Todorov scored the only goal in the 1-0 game.
Yeah,
to be fair, given the freedom of Kirkcaldy, but
I do think I would expect to see Vaughan after what I've just said. I still think that Robson, the way that he went about it at Capello, I think that's just how he'll go again.
I agree with you. I think that is what we'll see. I think it's interesting because it is a bit of a departure. It's, if you wanted a straight swap, or as close a straight swap as you could get for Finlay Pollock, I think that's Aidan Marsh. He's going to do more of the running and more of the pressing and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for me, Vaughan's got the quality. It's just he's the best player. So I think in particular what he gives you is, alongside Dylan Easton, he scores goals that aren't based on working really hard first. He scores goals based on being really good and can do things that you're not expecting. Like, even Finlay Pollock, for all the for as good as he's been, and he really did come onto a game, the goals he got were still based first and foremost out of working hard and running and pressing and being in the right place and putting the effort in. Whereas, and that's that, I think, is what you would be asking Aidan Marsh to replicate. Whereas Vaughan's kind of quality first, and not just scoring goals in his build-up play as well. Allan, where do you sit on that whole position? Are you sort of willing to make a case for Aidan Marsh, or are you fully behind Vaughan in from the start as well?
I could see, kind of much like you were saying there, I could see why you would go for Marsh over Vaughan, and it's very much that kind of high press kind of thing. I think was it Blair that kind of highlighted, or it might have been Les actually, I can't remember, apologies, after the Ayr game, talking about maybe Pollock missing for the Morton game was actually a factor in not being as solid defensively, because he didn't have that press from the front and defending from the front. So Marsh could potentially fulfil that role. I just think I agree with you. We just look more dangerous with Vaughan. In an attacking sense, we look more dangerous with Vaughan there. Again, we showed that in the Morton game. We scored 3 goals. I think Vaughan assisted 2 of them. And there's that wee nostalgia thing with Vaughan and Gullen up front. It's just, can we get Regan Henry back on loan for one game, maybe, just to get the band back together? But no, I would personally go with Vaughan. I think you're right in terms of the decisions he's made recently would suggest he will. Aidan Marsh has had very, very little game time. I don't see him throwing him into a game that, essentially we absolutely have. Assuming Partick Thistle are not going to stumble again against Hamilton, I hope they do. But we've got to go into this game assuming that Partick Thistle are going to get 3 points. So we absolutely have to win this game. And I don't think a guy who's played maybe 10 minutes total over the last 3 or 4 games is going to get a start. It's a shame for the lad, but I think ultimately, for what I've seen, Vaughan's a better footballer.
Yeah, I can't remember if I said this on a pod or not, but it almost feels like it's kind of too late for Aidan Marsh now anyway. It's like that kind of ship's sailed, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
not even really seen enough to say, oh, I wouldn't mind having him back next season.
I'm
We've
not
not-
entirely
actually,
sure.
and it's not that
there's
it's
a
not
ship
good
to
enough,
sail.
it's just we've not seen enough to say whether that's a thing or not.
I'm going to caveat that slightly to say that, if he scores 5 goals between now and the end of the season, that probably puts us in the playoffs. In which
Yeah.
case, well, then there's 4 more games for him,
Ah.
or 6 more games. But yeah, probably less realistic, that one. Blair, anything you want to add on that?
Just for a change. Well, I've said this before. I don't get it. I don't see what everybody else is seeing with Aidan Marsh, and not any fault of Aidan Marsh's. We've not seen anywhere near enough of him to form an opinion. But this idea that, I don't know if we just think that he'll do the Finlay Pollock role because he's young and a bit quick. Because I'm not entirely convinced he's the same player, the same kind of all-out running, never stops, just keeps going kind of footballer. Like, I mean, there was one game, I was trying to think, I think it was Hamilton away the first time on the midweek game. Pollock pulled up and got injured, and Marsh came on. He did well, to be fair, but he didn't do the Finlay Pollock role for me. He didn't do that non-stop, continual chase, run, chase. I think he's a bit of a different footballer. He's actually a forward. Like, I think he's actually a centre forward. And I think that if he was a genuine option, I think we'd have seen him more by now. And I kind of think, as Scott kind of alluded to at the beginning, like, Barry Robson sees him every day in training and has decided not to use him. And for me, there's got to be some reason behind that. Like, I can't imagine Robson's just too stubborn to play a goal scoring striker. Like, it just doesn't make sense. That said, I mean, stranger things have happened, but for me, there's no even a contest. Lewis Vaughan twice, 3 times, 4 times over every time, and actually, probably Aidan Connolly would be my second choice. In terms of, he will do that run forever until he can't run anymore, kind of role. But yeah, I would go Vaughan all day.
To be fair, I don't think the clamour for Aidan Marsh has been a particularly high bar. We've mostly just wanted them to get 10 minutes instead of
totally.
2.
Totally.
But I agree with you. I agree with the point you made there. Like, I have a general belief that managers try not to self-sabotage. If there's a guy in training and he's really good, typically they'll try and play him. Like,
yeah.
But again, I say though, a lot of it I think has been the case that we've been seeing players who are shattered, and you're like, stick somebody else on. He might not be an out and out runner, but he could run for 10, 15 minutes at the end of a game when other guys are blown out their arse. So it will be interesting to see, obviously, because it brings this kind of dynamic a little bit closer now, because obviously I think I would be very, very surprised if Vaughan doesn't start. But again, you need to make substitutions at some point, so hopefully Aidan Marsh will get, even if it's just a case if he gets a bit of game time at the end of the season, to at least kind of pick his mood up a bit going into the summer, because I can't imagine he's had a great time.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Watching the Rovers for the touchline for the bulk of this season, but ultimately can't argue with the results, which is the main thing. If we were getting beat every week and we were still mumping and moaning about this, maybe it would be slightly more well-founded. But ultimately, Barry Robson's been putting points on the board, and as you said, I think second in the form table, so he kind of quibbled too much with the decisions that he's been making. And on the subject of form and how we've been doing recently, and also Partick Thistle, as were mentioned, a bit of a round robin on our playoff chances, because I'm interested to hear just where we all are with this. And I've not decided where I am with this, so somebody's going to have to go first and take this question on the hop. If you had to put a percentage on it today, 4 games to go, what do you think the percentage chance is that we make 4th place ahead of Thistle? So we've got 4 games to go. Obviously, so have they. I think the way it is, I think our games are probably like on average slightly easier, but they've got basically 2 easy games and 2 difficult games as far as like the table goes. But they'll almost certainly be playing Falkirk and Livingston in the last 2 games, with possibly those 2 sides not having anything to play for. I've tried to stretch that question out to give you a bit of thinking time. Allan, what's your gut feel with that? Percentage-wise, as we sit here just now, where are you putting that? Rovers' chances of finishing 4th?
I think I've always been one of the ones who's kind of been maybe a bit more optimistic about our chances than the rest, right up until just before here last week when I was finally forced to admit, nah, it's done. And then the weekend came and the results were all absolutely perfect. And it was like, it was very much that kind of Jim Carrey Dumb and Dumber moment, wasn't it? So you're saying there's a chance, sort of thing. Just now, you've got to make Thistle favourites because they've got the points on the board. They've also got better goal difference. But I'm going to go 40% over 60% Thistle. That's where I'm sitting. I'm going to still... And I don't think that's been anything other than realistic. It's not been pessimistic about it at all. I think that's just they've effectively got a 4-point lead over us just now.
Interesting. Graeme, where are you on the same scale?
I'm not as optimistic as that, but just I know you were saying you were scrambling for how far ahead Partick Thistle were. I'm sure I saw something that were something like 11 points ahead when Robson came in. So
that's the figure I had in my head as well. Yeah,
get it down to 3 is fantastic, right? I think we've all said it before. Considering all what's happened this season, probably when Robson came in, a lot of us probably would have grabbed 7th at that point. He's going, stop the rot, Barry. That'll do. Fantastic. The fact that we've got a sniff of 4th is absolutely hilarious and it's brilliant. Honestly, I would probably die laughing if we get 4th. But it's Thistles to lose. It's been Thistles to lose all season. There's no point in him going in the playoffs anyway because he keeps fucking it up. So it's well giving us a shot. You know what I mean? We've got a terrible record in the playoffs. Give us a go. Come on. We don't even need the 100 grand. Hilarious. That would be the best bit, yeah. The sacked Chris Doolan, my pal Chris, who smells lovely by the way, he sacked him because he couldn't afford to lose the 100 grand difference. It'd be great if they've sacked them and they still don't make the playoffs. That would be the funny bit.
Particularly given what's happened to the semiconductor market in the interim period as well. Could be some
Probably,
funding issues there.
This new guy in who will not be in for buttons either. This new general manager. So yes, that would be funny. Thistles to lose, I would say 80-20 to Thistle.
80-20, wow. Just as an aside there, I don't know if you saw, there was kind of rumours, not even rumours, just people, I think, running their mouths, saying that, is it Ian Barakoff? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is pals with, I think, Levi Gill, I think, is the general manager at Thistle. And one of these kind of general, kind of football-y type disgruntlement thing that just leads to people making stuff up, I think, pretty broadly. The Thistle fans haven't been too happy with this new general manager, and there's been elements of, he's putting his pals into jobs and stuff. And there was this big rumour when the interviews were done that Ian Barakoff was going to get the job because he's best friends with Levi Gill. And they're now doing this really deliberate kind of PR exercise where in his interviews in the paper and all this kind of stuff, they keep mentioning that they've never met before. But they've had to kind of do this little like reverse piece of engineering to be like, we are not friends, which I'm almost certain is true. Like it would be kind of, it's the simplest explanation is that actually they've not met before and that somebody just made it up. I just find it very funny that he's like, so when I met Levi for the first time at the interview, just very good, very funny. Scott, where are you percentage-wise? What are you thinking?
I'm basically right in the middle of what Graeme and Allan were saying. I was pretty much about 30%. I think if you were to do like a football manager, simulate it 10 times, I think 3 times we make the playoffs, sort of thing. I I just think it's just a little bit annoying that Partick's last 2 games are likely going to mean nothing for the 2 teams they're playing against, and I think it's probably going to come down to those last 2 games, because I reckon we'll stay in touch with them in the next 2 games, but I can't see what do Falkirk and Livy, like, why would they need to get up for it? Livy will be wanting to, if anything, actually save themselves for the playoffs. They'll likely have maybe got second by that point as well, by the last game of the season. And then, Falkirk, well, they're just party mode. I know did they know, was it in League One, did they know already win the league and then go and win 7-1? I know that happened, but, like, that's not going to happen. I'm pretty certain of that. I just think they've got Hamilton and Dunfermline as well coming up, and you're just going, Christ, that 2 absolute shite teams that you cannot rely on either of them to get you a point. Like, ideal situation, you even say, right, Partick draw them 2 games, and then we maybe get 4 points out of the next 2, and then you go, right, it's really, like, game time now. But, yeah, I'm sticking with 30% now. I don't think I could get close to even saying it's 50-50. Just the fact that goal difference as well, I reckon we're going to need to beat somebody by a few. Mind you, it could be Queen's Park the way that they're going, but I just think
Queen's Park beat us 4-0 5 weeks ago.
Aye, but it's also a Queen's Park that had Callum Davidson. It also has a Queen's Park that still had Willie Haughey in his position. So there's a lot has gone on at Queen's Park since that game.
Very true.
Their goal difference will go down when Wanyama scores a hat-trick against them next week.
Was that when he actually takes to the field?
Hat-trick in the last 10 minutes.
And then gets sent off.
Back out the road. Blair, how about you? Were you thinking about this?
I'm less than all of that, I have to say. And
None,
genuinely
0%.
No, I know, but like I'm generally one of the more optimistic. Like I'm a stage short, hopefully, of a happy clapper, but I'm no far away from it. I disagree a bit with the statement you made at the beginning, Duncan, about our games being easier. And I get on paper playing the bottom team should be easy enough.
That's kind of what I mean, is looking at like the average
Totally.
of where teams are in the league almost.
But it's Airdrie, who are, like you've said at the beginning, one of the form teams in the league. We've still got to play Falkirk on the day they're probably going to win the league. And then we've got Morton, the only team we haven't beaten this season. Do you know what I mean? And then Queen's Park. Like, if anybody's going to give Queen's Park 3 points, it feels like it's still going to be us. I think the truth is, I think for us to get fourth, we probably need to win 3 out of 4 to do that. Because I think Partick are pretty much guaranteed to win the next 2 anyway. So you need to be kind of hounding them down in the last 2 weeks. And if we can get 2 points behind going into the last game of the season, definitely give us a chance. I didn't see Partick losing enough points, if I'm being totally honest. I didn't see it happening. Because actually, if you look at the form table, right behind us in Airdrie is Partick. Like, they're in decent form. I know they got beat at the weekend, but they're in decent form as well. I think we've probably left it just a wee bit too late. But it would be nice. I think it would be nice to still be within 3 points going into the last game of the season, so that we've still got something to play for on that last night. Would be nice. You know, you're having to listen out for the scores coming in and all that kind of jazz. Would be good. But the goal difference is obviously quite a big difference as well. So yeah, I'm probably 10-15% Rovers. I think just more so that I don't see Partick chucking it.
That I think is probably the key thing. Is they get beat last week. Was that a stumble, or is that a sign of what's to come?
Yeah.
The fact that they've then got Hamilton and Dunfermline back to back to try and get
I
over
think we'll see a
that
response.
Yeah, that's probably is the main thing. I mean, going into that, first of all, when you said 40-60, I was like, that's more or less where I am. But then it was Scott, it was when you said that if you ran it 10 times, and I was like, 3 seems like a lot when you put it like that. All of my confidence really just disappeared at that point. I was like, yeah, maybe it does feel more like a 1 in 10. I really don't know. If I remember, I'll keep this conceit going into next week if the results aren't horrendously against us, and we'll see how we change over time. But I think I said last time when we had a lot of this same conversation, if the gap's still 3 points in a fortnight, I'll feel pretty confident about it then. Because I think really Thistle need to stretch their legs in this next 2 weeks. I know what you've said about Falkirk and Livingston probably won't have anything to play for in those last 2 games, but they're still good teams. And I don't think there's enough. I almost don't think Thistle are good enough to sort of win by default almost. Like, even if it's a Falkirk side who aren't that arsed, that'll still be a game. And I think Livingston will be the same. So I think that's really... To flip that on its head, if after the next 2 rounds of games, Thistle aren't further away from us than they are now, I think they'll get a wee bit itchy about it. And I think we'll be looking then and going, well, hang on, you've now got tougher games to go than you've just had. Can you do this? And then it's up to us to then just kind of put those points on the board. So it will be interesting to see that. Yeah, that has kind of dented my optimism there. That wasn't what I expected when we went into that. But we
need a number,
see
though,
where
Duncan.
that goes.
You need to pin your colours to the mast.
I will. I'm going to go 25. I think 1 in 4. Yeah, I think so. I think if we, yeah, but that's a hopeful 1 in 4. My glass is a quarter full, not 3/4 empty, possibly. Right. Normally at this point we would do lineups, but instead of going round, I'm just gonna. You can put your hand up if you want. Has anybody got any changes other than putting Lewis Vaughan in for Finlay Pollock?
I would just like to raise a point about lineups, right? When we played Livingston, Liam Dick came on for about 10 minutes at the end of the game. This put Liam Dick in the top 100 Raith Rovers players for appearances.
Oh, really?
And the player he's knocked out for the top 100 is our assistant manager. And since then, Liam Dick has not spent a second on the pitch. So forget this Barry Robson picking the team, right? Mickey Cameron's picking the team. Outrageous. I can't believe such a man takes such a huff over such a small thing. Terrible.
So presumably...
I would kind of point I would make about the team is it's not even a change that I think we made. It's more a comment on some of the comments I see about the team not being changed. Every time there's anything put on, you get there's 2 or 3 people on Twitter, and I know Twitter's not a representation of the whole sport, who just have a real bee in their bonnet about Sean Byrne not playing. I like Sean Byrne. Lovely guy. Very good footballer at championship level. But I'd just like one of these guys to tell me who you're dropping out, Scott Brown and Ross Matthews, and why. What have either of them done during our unbeaten run of 6 games to deserve being dropped?
My favourite is
there's changed their username to 132 games days since Sean Byrne started the game. It's like,
he was injured for 85 of them, to be fair.
Sean Byrne's a very, very good championship midfielder. And if either of Scott Brown or Ross Matthews was to get injured, I would have no worries at all if Sean Byrne was to come in and replace him. And then it would I've also know that he would make it his kind of place to lose. Ultimately, I think Sean McGuigan on the Terrace Patreon today actually made a very good point, is that Scott Brown's the captain, so you're playing him. It's probably a choice between Byrne and Matthews. And Matthews is in there because he does what Barry Robson likes, and he runs and runs and runs and just covers every blade of grass. And Sean Byrne maybe doesn't do that quite as much. I'm not saying he's lazy. He certainly covers a lot of ground, but he's not as dynamic probably as Ross Matthews. And also Ross Matthews occasionally will have a shot.
I think when you've got three centre halves as well, you don't necessarily need that. What's it? The libero. You know that old-fashioned Italian, sat in the middle, pulling the
Guardian
strings.
Football Weekly. Okay.
Yeah, totally right. That's the poshest thing I think I've ever said. But I'm not entirely sure Byrne fits a back three, like the midfield in front of a back three. I don't think you need Sean Byrne in there. Sean Byrne's great to have.
He's perfect in the two as a 4-2-3-1, isn't he?
100%. Yeah, when you need that person to sit and let Scott Brown cover every blade of grass, absolutely. But when you've got three centre halves sitting behind them and actually capable of stepping out, I'm not really sure he fits the system the same.
Yeah. And who would you have as your trequartista, Blair?
Mickey Cameron, clearly.
Just, I think that's the point. Actually, is absolutely bang on in terms of the way that we play. And even Stevenson and Mullen as your wing backs as well. Mm-hmm. You do kind of need that box to box nature in the middle.
Yeah.
When you've got that, I mean, like a little bit like saying last week with Lewis Vaughan going into the Ayr game. Like, if it was me, I would be finding a place for Sean Byrne to start. Like, I mean, I said this about Aidan Connolly as well. I think if you just go on pure sort of ability, Sean Byrne is in the top 11 Wraith Rovers players.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the manager's got to find a system that works, and that's, about the sum being more than the whole being more than the sum of the parts. Is that right?
I think that's right.
And again, yeah, as you said, Alan, you can't argue with the results. This is a very different conversation if we've lost 4 out of the last 5. But we haven't. And I think that's the thing as well. Like, Sean Byrne hasn't scored a goal in 6-something years. Like, that's a very easy... If you're making a case for, like, who do I want to play... Now, Ross Matthews isn't scoring 15 goals a season, but when you're going, I've already got 3 centre-halves. My wing-backs aren't necessarily the most attacking wing-backs that ever existed. I don't have any of my goal scorers. Like, also, to make the active choice, one of my midfielders who I'm almost guaranteed isn't going to score either. You can see where that thinking comes from. I don't think it's a mad thing to do by any means at all. Right, let's have a break and then we'll come back, and Scott has a should McStay or should Dargo for us. Blair.
Yes, mate.
You're a man.
Yes.
And you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
All right, Scott, it is over to you for our customary pre-match should McStay or should Dargo. And if we can get it in less than about 16 minutes, this episode will come in under an hour, which would be a miraculous turn of events.
That's wishful thinking there, Duncan.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got 6 clues. There will be some sort of era for you at some point, Blair. So
I did request it.
I thought it was more a threat, but
I'd say I know where you live, but it's just a country at this point for me. So
okay. So clue number 1. I was born on the 21st of April, 1989.
lovely, jubbly. Thank you very much.
That's an era. Taylor Swift was born in 1989, was she not? She did a
She
album
played for
about
us,
it.
is she?
Maybe Taylor Swift.
Alongside Jai Katongo.
So could still be playing, but almost probably, certainly retired. Be what, 35, 36?
Yep. 36 in a couple of weeks.
36 in a couple of weeks, aye.
I feel like, by the way, just in Robbie's absence, I feel like Graham's going to get this. I think Robbie's by far and away the best at this. Graham, I think's like
I've just had to work out just before Blair actually said how old he was. I mean, that's how I am with things like that. He's younger than me.
I've narrowed my era down to like 10 years. I'm going probably somewhere in the 2010s. But of course, we have been known to sign people in their 30s, so there's always that option as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, what, a year younger than Lewis Stevenson?
yeah, maybe
right?
roughly a year older than Paul Hanlon. A couple of years older than Paul Hanlon.
Is he 34, I think, isn't he? Oh,
That's your era then. Effectively, you're thinking of players who are compatriots.
To be fair, most players do play on to mid-30s, so there's a good chance they're still playing somewhere. Even just juniors or whatever.
might be too older than that, but just for the sake of having a guess, I'm going to go Greg Spence.
Okay.
Greg Spence is a year. No, he's 2 years younger than that, I think, because he was a year below me at school. The only reason I know that. He's one of the very few Rovers players that I could tell you confidently roughly how old they are.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was telling my son about a footballer that I went to school with the other day, and we looked him up on Wikipedia, and I was like, they've got his age wrong because he's not younger than me. It was Chris Templeman. I was like, Chris Templeman, he was a primary 2 that showed me around the classroom when I was in primary 1 at Carrollton Primary School. So he's older than me. So there's no way he was born
There's a
then.
claim to fame.
It's not a great one, but I'll take it.
Maybe it was that bio-banding because he was so tall that they moved him up a couple of years.
He was playing in the school team in primary 3 as well, I think. So he was. I'm going to stick with Greg Spence, even though it's wrong.
I'll go Bobby Barr.
That's who I was going to say. We talked about loads in the last one.
That's 'cause I
Right, I'm
mentioned
going
his
to go
brother
for Chris Johnston.
Okay.
Mushroom.
I'll wait for more. I'll pass, Scott.
Right, no worries. Okay, clue number 2. In my time at Raith Rovers, I played alongside the likes of Ross Matthews, Ian Davidson, Dave McGurn, Lewis Vaughan, and John Baird.
Dave McGurk.
Should have done that, actually. Should have done that.
I'll stick with Bobby Barr. I think he fits all of that pretty much.
I don't think there's enough to disprove Chris Johnson there either.
I don't know if we've had him yet. Have we had Brian Graham yet? I don't know. I think we have him.
Yeah, we have. Know that you can't have him again, as Scott always tells us. And if anybody's going to do it, I feel like Scott's the guy.
You know what? For lack of a better answer, I'm going to go with Brian Graham. Because I don't think Greg Spence played with all of those players. I think he was gone before Matthews would have broken through. So. To be fair, I think he came back, but was probably gone away again. But
We had Kevin Moon.
I've guessed Kevin Moon
No, go
12
Kevin Moon.
different occasions. I don't think he's ever been right.
I don't think he's ever been an
Just a
answer.
random midfielder that's probably about 44 or something. But we'll go with Kevin Moon.
Okay.
Actually, the risk of changing from a potentially right, Grant Anderson.
You change into Grant Anderson.
Could be
Yeah.
about the right
I
age.
don't think we've had Grant either, have we? I don't think we have. Love Grant Anderson.
I think we need another clue, Scott.
Yeah. Okay. Nice, easy one. I am a forward.
It's no Kevin Moon.
I'll stick with Bobby Barr.
Gordon Smith.
What was the list of players that he played with, Scott? Sorry, for number 2.
So
was
you've got Ross
Davidson.
Matthews,
Yep,
Davo,
yep.
Davy McGurk,
Yep.
Lewis Vaughan,
Uh-huh.
and Beardy.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be people who have not seen that 5-3 press that will go going, who the fuck's David
Aye,
McGurk?
sorry, actually, that's a good point. We're making snide references to something. If anybody didn't see that, earlier in the week, the 5-3 press ran an article wherein both the headline and the body of the article, they referred to Wraith Rovers legend David McGurk, which is outrageous, to be honest,
Sacrilege.
for a local paper.
Sacrilege.
Robbie called out the editor on Twitter. I don't think he got a response.
To be fair, he is a witch, so he could put a hex on them.
Yeah. Sad to see the demise of the 5-3 press. But there we are.
Counting Grant Anderson's a forward, or is he more of a midfielder? He was an attacking midfielder. Oh,
I was trying to think, how would Scott categorise as forwards?
probably what it says on Wikipedia. But
See, I think Bobby Barr and Chris Johnson. I feel like Scott would say winger. I don't think he would say forward.
No, I think winger is forward.
But winger's a bit niche.
Well, see, I
that
think
would narrow it
that's
down.
an argument you could have. I'm trying to get inside Scott's head. I don't think he would make as broad a
Well,
categorisation as that.
to put it so it
He'd
makes
put
it
the
a
striker,
wee bit
though.
easier for you, I would an out-and-out winger that could play in like a 4-3-3. I would class that as like a forward. Yeah.
I'm
I've
sticking with
not,
Grant
I've
Anderson.
put it this way. I've not said.
So-
I've not necessarily said centre forward.
Yeah,
So that's
so,
why I'm saying I'm generalising it as a forward.
like Grant Anderson, I'd have had as a forward.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to stick with him.
By the way, I think that's a good shout as well, because McGurn came back, didn't he? He played the season that we won, the COVID season, the season that was cut short. Did he not play?
McGurn and Grant Anderson definitely played.
McGurn played a lot of games for us.
Aye, they definitely played together for at least a couple of years, I would have said.
Yeah.
I don't have a better answer than Chris Johnson. So I think he's a winger and probably not a forward, but I'm going to stick with him anyway.
Okay. So for now, I've got Duncan's got Chris Johnson, Blair's on Bobby Barr, Allan's on Grant Anderson, and Graham's got Gordon Smith. We happy with that to go to the next one, or anyone want to change?
No, all good, I think.
Stick.
Okay. Clue number 4. I've played for 6 teams throughout the professional leagues in Scotland, but also played for 3 more Scottish clubs outside of like juniors.
So 6 teams in the SPFL, basically.
Yeah. And then 3 clubs like in the juniors, basically.
I don't think Chris Johnson's played for that many teams. Played for
He's not
Kelly,
played
played
juniors.
for us. Dumbarton, is he still kicking about somewhere? Is it Annan? Something like that?
Last time I seen
See,
him
I
at
think
Airdrie.
Grant Anderson's older than that.
That he might be, but
You just disproving Allan's answers rather than...
yeah.
But no, I'm trying to... I've got a funny feeling Bobby Barr is no that age either. I think Bobby Barr's maybe a year older than that.
He's played more than 6 teams as well, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, well,
I'm trying to
6
think-
is
I'm
a
trying to
lot.
think. Grant Anderson, who's he?
How many are in
played in the
Angus?
South. I can't actually remember who else he's played for. I'm
So if
sticking
he's-
Grant Anderson just
He
because
must
I
be
can't
more than
think of
6
anyone better.
teams, though.
So he's 35 and he's played for 3 junior sides already, or 3 non-senior sides already.
Oh, but that could be Berwick Rangers, Kevin Beath and East Stirling.
That's a good point. Let's
True.
not get into the Bird Rangers all again. But that's a good point. I was going to say either he came up that way, or more likely he's been out of the league for at least 2 or 3 years, and then not with the fact that it could be.
To be fair, some of those ex-junior teams that are in the east and west of Scotland now are throwing some money about.
They are. And that's where I'm thinking that there's a good chance he's still playing somewhere at that age.
And almost certainly playing juniors. You wouldn't have thought. There's not too many people who drop out and come back.
No. I mean, we can rule out Liam Buchanan because he's played for 95 Scottish teams.
He's the only one who's completed the 42 actually in the team.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm going to go for Kevin Smith.
Is he not still
He's in the
So it's still
coaching
a-
staff somewhere.
Bonnyrigg?
Yeah, but he could have dropped out and pop. He seems like the kind of guy who might have dropped out for a season and then come back, or
He was at East Fife for a long time, though. Did he not get a testimonial?
yeah,
Not
it's
long
true.
ago.
Right, shut up. Come up with your own answers.
I'm just straight into the team working here because
It's
nobody's jumped
I
out.
know when you like
it's
your
no
ears.
teamwork because you're just knocking everybody.
Yeah.
I've not got an answer for myself, to be fair.
Are you thinking of a specific Rovers jersey, Blair? I know you do that sometimes. That's the only way I can do it.
Well,
You're all
I'm struggling because all of those players. I mean, Davidson was 500 appearances. Matthews, Vaughan, and McGurn. Like it's an era, but it's
but
not
Matthews
really
and
an
Vaughan give
era.
you
All 4 of
any
those
point
players
in the
have had
last 10
testimonials.
years.
You know what I mean? That's all you need.
Then you've got Baird, who had 2 spells.
3.
3.
Because that
Yeah.
era kind of shouts out Mark Stewart as well, but he'll be more than 36. There's no way
Mark
Mark
Stewart's
Stewart's
not
on
bad shout.
is 36.
No, I mean,
He'll be older than that.
I don't know.
No, I like that better than you do, I think.
That's not. By the way, that's a good shout.
He's not said it yet. Someone can steal it.
You know, see if you look at the screen now, it looks like Blair is almost Sherlock Holmes pondering with a pipe in his mouth.
That's what I think.
You look at him.
A pen. It's my thinking pen.
Because where did Mark Stewart go after he played for us? Mark
Probably
Stewart just
to the
left my
right-hand side, 'cause he
consciousness.
had one leg longer
Whenever
than
he
the
went,
other.
he was
Completely.
offside.
She's running in
Yeah.
a circle somewhere.
Circle.
He was offside somewhere.
Couldn't I tell you a single team Mark Stewart played for after he played for us? I don't know where he
Remember
went or
Dumbarton?
what happened after that.
There seemed to be a route to Dumbarton from everybody around about that time.
Yeah.
Dumbarton, eh? He's also, it wouldn't be at all surprised if you told me Stranraer feels like Stranraer.
He wouldn't have-
Possibly
would he have
is just
played with
cracked on the
Baird,
West
though?
Coast.
Mark Stewart and John Baird doesn't he feel like a strike partnership we ever had?
That's a good point.
But he didn't go back to Falkirk after us, did he? I know he obviously played for them before us, but I feel like he always scored for Falkirk against us and for us against Falkirk. But I can't remember if he went back to them after us.
Baird's
Yeah.
Baird's
Baird's
maybe
the
the
same,
best bit of this clue though, because yes, he's 3 spells, but they're all relatively short. And if it's a forward, I mean, who played up front with Baird?
Gregory
All I
Taddy.
can think is Brian.
Taddy was the name that came to me as well, to be honest.
Paddy and Graham, wasn't
Yeah. which is
Sorry to
making me
disappoint
think
you,
this.
Duncan, here, but we are reaching the hour mark now.
Yeah, I realised that. That was rampant optimism.
It's got me thinking about this
See,
1920
if
to be
I
fair,
was
season.
going to edit out some of the silences.
I was going to say, if I
Not
cut
that-
out
not that
silence,
there's many,
it'll
to
bring
be
us back
honest.
down again. Yeah, I'm aware that lesser podcasts will do that. Games like this, when there's long periods of silences, they will edit it out. You get raw silence from us. And you can hear the engines whir. Right, it can't be Gregory Taddy, just for no reason other than I don't think we'd get as sort of mundane clues as that.
No.
It's just
I
like, I
also-
played for 3 junior sides. Like,
Taddy was obviously around sort of
Played with Vaughan
2010
either.
for the Scottish Cup. I don't think he'd have been still around with Matthews and
yeah.
Vaughan.
Right, so
Big
who else
question,
did
Naddy
Baird
played
play?
junior, because I remember going to watch him play for Troon.
But
Aye, he's played
Naddy's,
for
I think
much
Naddy's
more
about
than
ages with
Played
me.
for Troon against Ryan Boris.
Oh,
Another
jeez.
blast from the past.
Aye, who else did Baird play with? So,
Do you want me to give you clue 5, which is like
Yes.
slight
yeah.
era point? So clue 5 is that this player was signed by John McGlynn.
That no, that doesn't help at all, Scott. That's again, he was here for years.
So either before 2012 or between 2018.
Right then, I'll give you more of an era. It was not the first time John McGlynn.
Oh, right.
So it has to be the
after 18 then.
1920 season
So
then.
it's definitely not Grant Anderson then, because he was here long
No.
before 2018.
No,
I
but
was
he
going
played in the
towards-
1920 season.
Graham Weir.
He
Really?
played the season that we won the league under COVID. The one that was cut
Allan,
short.
then. Because Lewis Allen played that season, didn't he?
Oh, Lewis Allen's a not bad shout. He's a bit young, is he, no?
Lewis Allen. Did he play for 6 senior sides? Aye, Lewis Allen can't be 35.
It's no Kieran Bowie.
No.
And Stephen McLean was the
Can it be Stephen McLean? Stephen
He
McLean's
signed.
not played for 3 junior sides.
McLean's about ages with me as well, I
When
think.
he signed, was he not?
Yeah, that makes sense. Who are the other forwards in that side? Dario Zanata? He's not that old.
No.
Played like he is, something.
It was Gullen.
Bowie.
and Bowie. João Victoria. Now we've had him, eh?
He played for loads of teams, though.
But have we not had him? Did Les know? Or was that just, did Les think it was him
possibly.
and it was...
Difficult to tell. We've done too many of these now.
Is he also still at like Hamilton or something like that?
I'm going to say
Might think
João
of someone
Victoria.
else.
Is that your guess, Blair?
Yeah, I'm going to say João Victoria. He'd be about the right age.
I'll stick with Grant Anderson just because I can't think of anyone else.
I think that's a good shout, by the way. I do think he's maybe a bit older, though, is the only... He fits everyone else. I'm sure he's either still playing or just retired. I'm sure
And then
we've
for you,
had
Duncan
João
and
Victoria
Graeme?
before, though.
Nah, I'm gone.
I don't think I'm going to come up with a better answer for that.
I'm gone.
I'm trying to think. What kit were we wearing?
Dark blue with a pale blue stripe.
Right.
No, actually, it was the wavy one. It was the year after that. It was the blue with a sort of wavy pattern through it.
Mm-hmm. Because that...
I've got one here somewhere.
That blue kit you meant with the stripe in it, was that no the one that Vaughan scored the hat-trick against the Park?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Barry Smith.
Nat Wedderburn is who I'm seeing in that one.
Wedderburn,
And
aye.
Grant Gillespie.
Yeah.
And Chris Duggan.
Chris Duggan, yeah.
Nah, it can't be
Right,
Chris
Chris Duggan?
Duggan.
The 4-3 against Airdrie. Yeah.
Was that the first time of Dan Armstrong as well?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was,
I'm really struggling to come up with anybody else.
6 in the SPFL, though. Us, Stranraer. I can't
You
think
think
who
Joe
anybody else
Victoria?
is. Yeah,
Airdrie?
Airdrie. Yeah, of course he played in that 4-3 game.
Don't know. It's unlikely to be a lone player as well at that age. Obviously, it's not impossible, but you're not talking about like a kid who came in,
Yeah.
someone who was relatively
It's
established.
got to be that season though, and the only lone players we brought in were Stephen Anderson and
Steve McLean.
McLean.
Who else did McGlynn try alongside James Keatings? I know we had James Keatings recently. When he was on a hunt for forwards.
Oh, that was the season after, wasn't it? Was that not the season that Bowie came through?
Yeah. So
The
who's
sort of first year in the championship.
No, Bowie played League One.
Aye, that's right. Keatings was the year
Because
after.
him and Tate came through and played League One with us.
That's right.
Then we went up, it was Dooku and Gozy.
Aye.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget? I'll stick with
Timmy
Victoria.
Abraham.
Timmy Abraham. God,
Grant
yeah.
Anderson makes sense.
It does.
Timmy Abraham wasn't good enough to have played for 3 different
I've got a
junior
funny
sides.
feeling though, João Victoria. I've got a funny feeling he's still playing somewhere in Glasgow area junior football.
There's a
I'm
player
sure
around
he's
about that
taken
age
it
who's
there.
playing in Glasgow area junior football, but we're not going to mention him.
No,
Yeah. Nice.
he would be the right age as well.
I know.
He wouldn't. Scott wouldn't. He wouldn't, Scott, would you?
No.
The band episode.
Well, put it
Yeah,
this
imagine.
way. See, when I was listing players, I had to actually scribble a name out. For a said centre back that's at another Fife team.
Aye, of course, if he's played with Davo, he's played with Benny.
We want the final clue?
We need it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in my time with the Rovers, I played just 12 games in all competitions, scoring 1 goal.
João Victoria.
So it sounds like a Rovers forward.
Definitely no Grant Anderson.
No, it's definitely no Grant.
Did you say that's
Victoria
not
Hadley?
Joe Victoria? Or do you think
Did
that
Jamie
still
Moore
might be
score a
Joe
goal?
Victoria?
I think it is. I don't think he hardly played.
Jamie Mole. Jamie Mole's not
Jamie
a bad
Mole.
shout.
Did he actually score a goal?
Or was he first year in McGlynn?
Yeah,
Yeah, he played
he wouldn't
alongside
have played with Vaughan.
Daddy.
Because he
and all
played in the
those
cup,
guys.
the cup semi, didn't he?
Yeah, he wouldn't have played with Vaughan or Matthews.
He's in that Iron Brew promotional photo with Laurie Ellis.
Yeah. Yes, he is. I've got that somewhere in here too.
So, again, just to recap, I've got Blair on Jill Victoria, Allan on Grant Anderson, Duncan on Kevin Smith, and Graeme on Gordon Smith.
It's definitely not Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Aye, 1 goal. It's definitely no Kevin Smith. I don't even remember Victoria scoring for us. I remember him scoring against
He
us.
did early, I think.
He scored against us because he left us halfway through the season, didn't he? And went to Stranraer and then scored against us for Stranraer that season.
We put him out on loan to Stranraer, did we not? Initially.
I think we released him because he definitely scored against us. We got beat 3-2 at home, I think.
I do remember losing at home to Stranraer, and it was like in front of 1,300. It was just Horrendous.
The heydays, eh?
I think that's the photo actually that Robbie always refers to, where he took a screenshot of like the Sky Sports clip 3-2 Stranraer at starts, and then it was like comparing it to last season and just going, look where we've been.
Yeah. He scored twice against us in that Airdrie game too.
Another 30 seconds, and then just...
I think... Feel free to decline to answer this if you want, but have we mentioned his name? Has the correct player been mentioned up to this point?
The
right,
correct player has been mentioned tonight.
Right, okay.
We have named a few, to be fair. So
I feel less bad about that now, because I would have felt worse if it was like...
fourth place.
Yeah, we still not mentioned them. Right, on the basis that he's been mentioned, I'm Team Joe Victoria. Or Vittoria. I think that was actually a typo. I don't think there was ever a C in it.
Although I'm sure we've had him already. That's my only doubt. I remember there being something about Les and Vittoria's dad or something. It was one of the early games.
That rings a bell, actually, but it might have been a wrong guess or something like that, I suppose.
Possibly.
And Les just coming out with obscure facts as he's want to do.
Possibly.
Again, certainly.
I gave in as soon as he said 12 games.
It's fine because Blair got it. I know that normally if somebody gets it quite late on, we'll like do it, but I just thought there was a part there that I was thinking he might actually change it here, and I thought if he's going to change it, then
the only reason I wasn't going to change it is because I'd pretty much narrowed it down to that season, and the only striker it could, or the only forward player it could be, was him, and I wasn't even convinced he was right. But it couldn't be. I mean, it couldn't be Kieran Bowie, and it couldn't be Stephen McLean.
Yeah. We definitely didn't do him before because I went and checked the comments to double check that he hasn't. And you're right, he's currently at Drumchapel United.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure we've had a conversation about this before. At least a conversation about him and the fact that he's still playing. Because he's another one of these players that's never played outside Scotland either, is he?
He's always been in Scotland.
Yeah.
Started his career with Giffnock North.
Wow. So who's the 6 teams in? Airdrie, us,
Arbroath.
Oh, I do not know that.
Queen's Park, Stranraer.
I knew Stranraer.
Who have you said as well?
Albion Rovers.
Albion Rovers. I knew that actually.
Yeah. Can't believe you
don't have Albion Rovers. He played for Albion Rovers when they were still in the leagues. I was classing that as in the leagues.
I've actually seen Giffnock North play a few times because they play in the same amateur league as Duncan.
The 3 outside the league I was counting was Drumchapel, East Kilbride and Giffnock North.
Oh, East Kilbride, aye, that's right.
Bizarrely, Duncan, who play in Giffnock North League, a certain striker who shall not be named, also played one game for him and scored a hat-trick before he went to Clyde.
That was good, Scott. I'm not entirely convinced by your era clues. It's like
McGlenn is that's not really.
Yeah,
that's the players that
20th century
over the course of like 15 years.
When on TV with Rovers, it was in colour.
Yeah. I'm a Duncan. If I can't picture a strip, I'm struggling. Like,
no, I've just got to do it visually like that and try and think. Like for most of that, I was thinking of the Remember kit and just trying to go through players I could see in that kit. Which I don't think Joe Vittoria would have played that way. Wasn't there at that point?
No. He only came that one season.
We loaned him out in January. He was only with us for 6 months, basically.
We basically signed him off the back of that 4-3 game against Airdrie because he absolutely tore us to bits that day. He scored twice for Airdrie when they were 3-1 up. He was up against Jamie Wilson. Was it Jamie Wilson, the right back?
Watson.
And oh my God, he absolutely destroyed him. And then we signed him and he was guff. Standard.
Thought that we did.
Going back to what Graeme was saying earlier about.
I put him out to Stranraer on loan, and then he joined them permanently after that.
Yeah.
Because I think he was there for like 18 months all in.
All right.
Right, excellent. That was good. I enjoyed that. Just two quick things to note ahead of Saturday. So first of all, season ticket holders can bring a friend for a £5, but you do have to have that ticket bought before midnight on Friday. Can't pick them up on the day. So don't get caught out there if that's something you're planning
And you need
to do.
Sorry, just off the back of that, it's not as simple as just going on and buying it. You fill in a form and you tell them where you would like the seat to be, and they will email you the seat, and then you have to buy it. So if you do it at 10 to midnight, I'm imagining you're not going to get a reply. Like, you're probably going to have to at least order the ticket kind of earlier than that.
Right, that's good information. I just don't want to get caught out with that. And secondly, there is also one of the regular food bank collections at the game as well. This time there's a particular focus on pet food. I think it's World Pet Day at some point this week.
That's why my dog made an appearance.
Yeah, we should have tied that in. Yeah, a quicker thinking host would have made that a link. So yes, as always, if you have the means to do so, please do contribute to that, because it's a very worthy cause. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back over the weekend with our thoughts on whatever transpires on Saturday and whatever Partick Thistle have got up to, and hopefully Dunfermline will get beat again. So we will look forward to speaking to you again then. Thank you and goodbye.
One quick thing before you do go. Prediction League closes on Friday night because of the Friday night game, so get it in.
See, before we start, when I'm like, has anybody got anything to add?
I know.
Tell me that, so I'll do that before I do the end of the podcast.
Totally forgot.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.